Welcome to the INFOWARS Nightly News. It is Tuesday, March 24th, 2015, and I'm Leanne McAdoo. Here are tonight's top stories.
Tonight, how your bank may be a part of the snitch society, and a look back at domestic military operations. That's next on the INFOWARS Nightly News.
I mean, I guess gun confiscation didn't happen in Katrina either. It's all over the news that we're against the troops or we hate the military. No, we hate the military being used by the globalists.
Well, it seems that we've really struck a nerve reporting on the Jade Helm 15 military exercise that's set to take place this summer. We are now being attacked on all cylinders, coming from all different sort of media outlets that are out there. If you're not familiar, the Jade Helm 15 is scheduled to take place between July 15th and September 15th across parts of Texas, California, Arizona, New Mexico. It's going to involve Green Berets, Navy SEALs, and other special ops forces. And the plan specifically details the effects that this exercise might have on local civilian populations, including increased phone calls to police regarding suspicious activity. And there's going to be increased helicopter activity at night as well. So, of course, this was all something that really concerned us. We thought we probably should go ahead and report on this since it's going to be affecting at least 7 states. Now we've got another article on Drudge Report today saying that this military training exercise could be expanded to as many as 10 states. So this is affecting a large swath of the country. But we are just conspiracy theorists. We've got Glenn Beck talking about us on his radio show, the Army Times, Stars and Stripes. Vice News put out an article today called Conspiracy Theorists Think an Army Training Exercise Will Bring Martial Law to the U.S. this summer. Well, first of all, we did not say that. This is written in such a way that if there isn't martial law this summer, they can say, oh, see, conspiracy theorists, it's not martial law. What we're trying to point out is that anytime there is a military drill being conducted on American soil, people should be concerned. It's not normal that military helicopters are flying over civilian areas in Miami and firing rubber bullets, and the people, local civilians there, have no idea what's going on and they're afraid. And now those are the same type of exercises that are going to be being conducted in Bastrop, Texas, now in Florida, Utah, places that are listed as hostile. So that's what we're talking about. We want to know what's going on, and they're not really releasing any information until further. Now, we want to consider what our American ancestors thought about the notion of a standing army. James Madison said, the means of defense against foreign danger have been always the instruments of tyranny at home. And that is what concerns us. Now, joining me now in studio is Rob Dew. I mean, for people that aren't really familiar with what we do here at INFOWARS, we have reported on so many different military exercises throughout the years. Why has this one struck such a nerve?
Well, just like when you look on the map and you see all the states, what we have is a lot of different pieces to make a giant puzzle, which at the end is basically FEMA detention camps and the military on the streets confiscating guns from Americans. That is what we believe is the end game. I firmly believe that. You look at all the preparations that are going on, all the acclimation. A lot of this, we're not saying martial law is going to happen, but what we are saying is that by having more military on the streets, working with civilian authorities, and then working with civilians, you're training the people in these areas to think that it's okay. Like it's normal to have troops walking around on the streets, confiscating guns like we saw in Iowa back in 2009. Like we actually saw active operations in Katrina. But it all kind of goes back to this civilian inmate labor camp program, which is the Army working with the Prison Bureau, the Federal Bureau of Prisons, to actually get laborers from the civilian sector and have them working on Army bases. You can actually, this is just part of the plan. Page 145 of the book, 9/11 Descent into Tyranny, which Alex Jones released in 2002, it just talks about, well, there's 12 installations at the different camps and different forts in the United States, prison camps. They have off-post programs where they're taking prisoners, bringing them in and having them work on different projects. So actual work camps with civilians working for the Army. And I mean, I don't know if you think that's creepy. I think that's super creepy. And it goes on from there, as you mentioned, garden plot, which has a lot of interesting tidbits in here about minorities, about the increasing poverty levels, increased violence. What we're seeing now, we're seeing
when you
these
have the
Soros
minority groups threatening the police.
Right. We see all this kind of coming to a head now. But I want to remind people about there was a this is for the United States Military Police, Fort McClellan in Alabama, and this is back in April 2006. They released the civil disturbance operations, which outlines a whole host of activities that they have planned for the American people when a civil disturbance breaks out. And we outline this in 2 articles. Army Manual outlines plans to kill rioters, demonstrators in America, and Army Course Manual trains soldiers to confiscate constitutionally protected firearms. Now, these articles were back in 2012. This document itself came out in 2006, but we didn't learn about it until 2012. It was finally declassified. But it talks about crowd control. It mentions PSYOPs, which is funny enough. One of the Army officers contacted Joe Biggs and said, hey, we're just conducting PSYOPs. Well, this plan talks about how they line up to get rid of demonstrators, the kind of weapons they're going to use, what they do when they grab people in areas that are going to have civilian unrest, which is exactly what they're preparing in this plan here. Texas and Utah, and then there's a little enclave in Southern California that is hostile. They're considering these areas hostile.
And that makes complete sense because just a couple of years ago, there was more than 120,000 signatures on a petition to the White House to allow Texas to peaceably secede. So, of course, we're hostile here.
We don't like the TSA groping us. Now there's even a bill to bypass the federal marijuana laws to circumvent those. So Texans really are speaking out. Utah is, from what I'm hearing from our contacts out there, Utah is a source of a lot of preppers. A lot of people, especially the Mormons, are very prepared. They know how to grow gardens. They can a lot. They are, I think, are supposed to have 2 to 2.5 years of food on hand. So there you're going to have a lot of food storage there. So maybe that's why they're being considered hostile. But there's all these plans. You got the scouts training to fight terrorists. You've got this article, which was out of the Daily Times Herald, Guardsmen to conduct urban training in Arcadia. This was a National Guard unit that was going door to door, and they were asking about weapons dealers, arms dealers, weapons caches, and they were working with the local community there that they say adopted them, because we interviewed the actual guy, the lieutenant colonel in charge of it, and he's like, oh yeah, no, this is no big deal. This is what we do all the time. That same year, you have the National Guard at the Kentucky Derby. You've got Army the U.S. military assisting in Vancouver for the Olympics. So just the whole thing of getting the troops out on the streets. And then you go to Katrina, where we had National Guard going door to door, confiscating firearms. And in fact, I want to go to this clip that I played in a report I did about 2 weeks ago. And it's a National Guardsman. He lists where he's from and everything, and talking about the operations they did at night, where they actually went door to door and confiscated guns. It's really scary.
I was with the 45th Infantry Brigade, Delta Company, 1st of the 279, 2nd Platoon, during Hurricane Katrina. I've always wanted to get a hold of you guys and kind of get the word out there for those that still have that slight hesitation in the back of their head that gun confiscation can't and won't happen here. It already has. And I was only 21 years old, just really gung-ho, really dedicated to the Army, especially to the infantry. And I did whatever I was told. Let's see, the first thing we did was we got a 3-week, a book full of 3-week-old 911 phone calls, right? And then we had to go around and answering all the phone calls. So we were like cadaver dogs for about 3 weeks. And in between them, we would run night missions. And here's the thing. A lot of people may think that they'll see this on the news or they'll have time to get ready when the crap hits the fan or whatever. It's just, it's a truck, you know what I mean? It's a group of trucks. They pull up, they stack right on your home, as we did, and we broke entry. Yeah, we would yell out, Oklahoma Army National Guard, is anybody in need of assistance? But that's as we were booting in the door. Well, we had a couple of people resist verbally, and they got stuffed and cuffed very violently. We throw them in the back of the 5-ton or the deuce and a half or whatever, and then we take them out to the Greyhound bus station, which was the police station at the time.
So that clip is a perfect example of the other huge psyop that's going on with, oh, we're not going to take your guns. Meanwhile, we're going door to door and we're going to confiscate your guns under emergency settings.
Right, and what they're doing now is telling the troops, hey, we're going door to door to do wellness checks. And so that gets the troops acclimated to going door to door because they're not aware of the big plan either, which is part of our job to educate the troops out there and say, hey, look, when you're being told you're going on wellness checks into areas, you're going to be confiscating guns because that's what they did in Katrina. And we've even got that clip of the National Guard walking around, going door to door, street by street, and they even say, hey, I may have to shoot an American. You never know.
Right.
I mean, crazy stuff.
They're not taking the time to say, is this a constitutional order? They are saying, I have been given orders to do this.
They've been trained to follow orders, and that's
right.
what they're doing.
Exactly.
And they are allowed to disobey orders if they're unconstitutional. And they need to know that. The military needs to know that out there. But in addition to this, okay, so if you're going to launch a large operation, you need equipment, you need arms, ammunition, you need Humvees. And that's what they're doing with this whole police militarization
right.
that's going on across the country since 2006. You can see the big buildup. I've even got the graph right here. You guys can zoom in on that. 432 MRAPs, 435 other armored vehicles, 44,000 night vision pieces. You got aircraft, machine guns, magazines, the billions of bullets. Because what's going to happen is the Army will be out there providing the force, and then you'll have Homeland Security and FEMA acting as the overseers, telling people which areas they're going to go into, which areas they're going to cordon off, and then surround and contain, take everybody's firearms, and then you're under the thumb of, hey, whatever they want.
Right.
They can go, hey, we need to vaccinate everybody because everybody's getting sick, so now everybody needs their flu shot. Or we're going to take your food because you may have had 2 years worth of food, but we're going to take it and spread it around with everybody else. Just another weird form of socialism.
And people don't understand that they have enough foresight to say, well, let's go ahead and connect with these local agencies, these local law enforcement agencies. We'll give them this military equipment. We're their friends. We're going to go out. We'll have a beer together. And then a few years down the line, when martial law takes place, they can say, oh, wow, we didn't know that it was going to get this bad. But now we're going to need you guys to go ahead and police on the local level, use that equipment that we gave you. You know, you're part of the team. And here, I mean, we've already seen local law enforcement saying with a straight face on local news, well, we need these MRAPs for veterans.
Exactly.
I mean,
oh, yeah. They know how to build roadside mines.
Yeah.
And what is it? Anti-personnel mines. And this same thing happened in Nazi Germany, actually. Incidentally enough, I know we're going to go to the Nazi era, but they would fly in police officers and I guess whatever their version of the county is, officials from England into Germany before the war broke out. And basically we're getting to know these guys and building up a repertoire on them. So when they invaded England, they knew who to go to say, hey, we need you to go in and find all the infiltrators. So they're treating us like the insurgent force going in to meet the local officials and public servants that are supposed to be on our side and protect us. But they will willingly open their doors to the federal government, open their doors to the Army. Oh, well, we need to do this. It's you guys say it's a hostile, we're in a mission situation, so we're going to cooperate with you. And that's how it happens. And it's really sick and disgusting how they're doing it. We should be taking all this time and energy and doing things to improve the economy, doing things to improve our actual border that is being overrun right now that we're doing nothing about, stopping the real drug dealers that are shipping people and drugs and who knows what else across our southern border. I mean, we don't know at this point because we just don't have the manpower down there doing it. We're too busy saying Texans and Utahns are the enemy here.
Right. Well, Utah did threaten to shut down the water supply at the NSA. So, of course, that's a hostile movement right there. But Starbucks wants everyone to talk about race.
Right. Don't worry about anything else except race. That's the big issue right now. We shouldn't even talk about this. And people who do talk about it are total kooks because they get fired up when they see the actual plan taking place in front of them. And we go, hey, guys, we need to be on the lookout for this. Oh, we're saying it's martial law going to happen. No, we're not. We're saying the military does not need to be on the streets of America conducting operations that lead to gun confiscation. And that's what's going on.
Absolutely. And, if Starbucks really wanted to help, they could educate people on some of these plans like Operation Garden Plot, which is going to, enforce this martial law because of high unemployment in minority groups or civil unrest in minority groups when there's an uprising with minority groups against local law enforcement. And those are things that we're seeing.
Ferguson.
That's exactly what we're seeing in Ferguson. I mean, we just had who's it? The Huey P. Newton Gun Club calling, chanting to kill cops. So we're